Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Dinda Gautama. I'm here to explain my opinion about English phonetics and phonology. Okay, let's go. Phonology is the sound patterns of language or the study of how speech sound form patterns. There are thousands of languages, but only hundreds of speech sound. Even more remarkable, only a few dozen features, such as voicing or bilabi. The sound form different patterns in the different language. English has nasalized vowel but only in syllable with nasal consonant. French puts nasal vowels anywhere it pleases, with or without nasal consonant. The speech sound that ends the word song. The vowel nasal chi cannot begin a word in English, but it can in Vietnamese. The fact that a sound such as chi is difficult for an English speaker to pronounce at the beginning of a word, but easy for a Vietnamese speaker. These patterns might be as simple as the fact that b a vowel nasal cannot begin a syllable in English, or as complex as why G is silent in second but is pronounced in the related word signature. To see that is a pattern and not a one-time expression, just consider the SIPRI and in autumn and in autumnal. The pronunciation of morphemes is determines how we pronounce words and the parts of words. Often certain morphemes are pronounced differently depending on their context. With different pronunciation, plural form have example cat, cats, dog, dogs, fox, fox. Note also that there is a regularity in column A, B, and C that does not exist in D. The plural forms in D as a children and oxen, mice, cetera, and sheep. That a hodgepodge of special cases that are memorized individually when you acquire English, whether natively or as a second language. This is because there is no way to predict the plural forms of this word. The spelling, which at is or es is misleading, not a z inside yet if you know English. You pronounce it as we indicate. When faced with this type of question, it is useful to make a chart that records the phonological environment in which each variant of the morpheme is known to occur. Allomorph is more technical term for a variant. A minimal pair is two words with different meaning that identical except for one sound segment that occur the same place in the word. For example, cap and cat are a minimal pair that differ only in their final segment, whereas cat and mat are a minimal pair that differ only in their initial segment. Minimal pair whose members take different allomorphs are particularly useful for our search. For example, consider cap and cap, which respectively take the allomorph z, and s to form the plural. The formation of the regular past tense of English verb parallels the formation of regular plurals, like plurals, some irregular past tense conform to not particular rule, and must be learned individually, such as go, when, sing, sang, and hit or hit. And also, like plural, their phonetic past tense morpheme for regular verbs d, t, and it. Phonetic provides the means to describe the puns sounds of language, showing how they are produced and how they vary. The minimal pairs seal and zeal show that s and z represent two contrasting phonemes in English. They cannot be allophones of one phoneme because one cannot replace the s and with the z without change the meaning of the word. That s and z differ in voicing. S is voiceless and z is voiced. The phonetic picture of voicing therefore distinguish are two words. Voicing also distinguish feel and will, and cap when a feature distinguish one phoneme from another, hence one word from another, it is distinctive feature or equivalently. A phoneme feature the phonetic and phoneme symbol to be cover symbols for sets of distinctive feature. When a feature value is predictably by rule for a certain class of sounds, the feature is a non-distinctive or redundant or predictable feature for that class. But but non-redundant, it means distinctive or phonetic feature for English consonant aspiration or voiceless stop. Further illustrated the asymmetry of the phonological system of different language, but aspirated and unispirated voiceless stop occur in English and that, but they function different in the two languages. Rules determine the environment in which vowels are nasalized or voiceless stop aspirated. The rules apply to all the words in the language and even apply to made up words such as synth, pitch, or spread, which would be synth, pitch, and spread phonetically. Many languages besides English have a rule that nasalizes vowels before nasal consonant. Is nasalizes a vowel when it produces a nasal consonant in the same syllable. For nasality rule, we do not need to consider individual segments. The rule automatically applies to initial P, T, K, and TIF. Phonological rules often apply to natural class of sound. A natural class is a group of sound described by a small number of distinctive features. If segments were not specific as feature matrix, the similarities among P, T, K, or and G would be lost. Implies that the relationship between the phonemic representation of a word and its phonetic representation or how it is pronounced is rule governed. Phonological rules are part of a speaker's knowledge of the language. The phonemic representations are minimally specific because some features or features value are predictable. For example, in English, all nasal consonants are voiced, so we don't need to specify voicing in the phonemic feature matrix for nasal. Similarly, we don't need to specify feature in low-back vowels such and the specification reflect the redundancy in the phonology, which is also part of a speaker's knowledge of the sound system. Okay, we state the vowel nasalizing rule. Vowels are nasalized before a nasal consonant within the same syllable. This is rule specific the class of sound affected by the rule. It states what phonetic change will occur by applying the rule. Phonetic change is mean change phonemic oral vowels to phonetic nasal vowels. And the second is, and it specifies the context or phonological environment. Phonological environment means before a nasal consonant within the same syllable. The difficulty of tongue twister like the sick sheep is sick is based on the repeated similarity of sound. If one were to make some sounds less similar, as in the second sheep, tenth sheep is sheep, it would be easier to say. An example of easy pronunciation touch dissimulation is found in some varieties of English where there is a fricative dissimulation rule. The assimilation and dissimulation rule might all be touch of a feature changing rules. In some cases, a feature already present is changed. The rule morpheme has a voicing a value change from plus to minus when it follows a voiceless sound. In English, we do not contrast long and short consonant. This and other example suggests that the morphological long and short consonant. This and other examples suggest that the morphological patterns in language are closely related to other generalizations about the phonology of that language, just as vowel length can be used for emphasis without changing the meaning of a word. Segment dilation rules are commonly found in many languages and are far more prevalent than segment insertion rules. One such rule occurs in casual or rapid speech. We often delete the unstressed vowel. The phonemic representation of the stem in signature and so on will include a ch that will be deleted by the regular rule if a prefix or suffix is not added by stating the class of sound that follow the g nasal consonant rather than any specific nasal consonant. The rule deletes the g before both and n. Phonological rule may also record sequence or phoneme, in which case they are called metathesis rule. For some speakers of English, the word ask pronounced, but the word asking is pronounced asking. In this case, metathesis rule records the s and k in certain contexts. In the phonological description of a language, is it not always straightforward to determine phoneme representation from phonetic transcription? The function of the phonological rules in grammar is to provide the phonetic information necessary for the pronunciation of utterance slips of the tongue or speech error, in which we divide in some way from the intended uterus show phonological rules in action. We all make speech error and they tell us interesting things about about the rule about language and its use. In the order to error, we see the application of the expression rule. In the intended state, the T would have been realized as an aspirated T because it follows the syllable initial as when it was switched with the in mud. It was pronounced as the aspirated T because it occurred initially. The third example also illustrates the aspiration rule in action. More than being simply amusing, speech errors are linguistically interesting because they provide further evidence for phonological rules and for the decomposition of speech sound into features. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you. Sorry if I have too much value. Sorry and thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.